My husband's promotion ruined our marriage. Last night, I found a receipt for a hotel room. Subreddit. r/relationship advice. The first time Mark missed our anniversary, I told myself it was fine. He had just been promoted to chief of surgery at St. Mary's, and I had seen the toll it took. The 3 a.m. emergency calls, the coffee cups piling up in his car, the way he had started sleeping on the couch, claiming he didn't want to disturb me. But when I found the hotel receipt tucked into his gym bag like a guilty secret, I stopped making excuses. The paper was crisp, dated 2 weeks prior. It was from the Lux Downtown Hotel, totaling $387.50, with an 8 p.m. checkout time. My fingers trembled. That night, he had texted me at 10 p.m., still in surgery. Don't wait up. I had believed him. Now, standing in our marble-tiled kitchen, I traced the receipt's creases and tried to breathe. The logical part of my brain, the part that had gotten me through nursing school, the part that diagnosed sepsis in a toddler before the doctors did, whispered that I should check the credit card statements. Look for patterns. The emotional part of me screamed that he was cheating. I opened our banking app. 3 transactions jumped out. The Lux Downtown Hotel, $387.50, charged 2 weeks ago. The Willow Inn, $299, charged 10 days ago. The Harbor Suites, $425, charged 3 days ago. All of them were billed to Mark's corporate credit card. All on nights he had claimed to be stuck at the hospital. I closed the app, staring at my warped reflection in the dark screen. Who are you? I asked the ghost of the man I had married, the man who had proposed to me under the cherry blossoms in D.C., his voice cracking as he said, "Ellie, you're the only thing that's ever made sense." The garage door creaked open. "Honey, I'm home," Mark called, his voice too bright, too forced. I crumpled the receipt in my fist. Mark walked into the kitchen, his tie loosened and his sleeves rolled up. He smelled like antiseptic and coffee, just like he always did after a shift. But tonight, his smile was too wide, his eyes darting to the crumpled receipt in my hand. "Long day?" I asked, my voice steady. Too steady. "Yeah, 3 back-to-back surgeries. You know how it is." He opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, and popped the cap off. The sound made me flinch. I unfolded the receipt slowly, flattening it against the counter. Funny, the Lux Downtown Hotel charges $387.50 for a single night. That's a pricey surgery, Mark. He froze. The beer bottle hovered halfway to his lips. For a second, I saw it, the flicker of panic. Then it vanished, replaced by a frown. "What are you talking about?" "Don't." My voice cracked. I checked the credit card. The Lux, the Willow Inn, the Harbor Suites. All on nights you said you were at the hospital. Who is she? He set the bottle down hard. "Jesus, Ellie, you're really going to accuse me of cheating? After everything I've sacrificed for us?" Then explain the receipts. They're for work. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture he'd always made when lying. "The hospital hosts visiting specialists sometimes. I book rooms for them." "Since when is that your job?" "Since the promotion." He raised his voice, and I stepped back. "You think I wanted this? The hours, the pressure? I'm drowning here, and instead of supporting me, you're playing detective." The word stung. For a heartbeat, I almost believed him. Almost. Then his phone buzzed on the counter. A notification lit up the screen. "Unknown number. We need to talk about the money." He snatched the phone, his jaw tightening. "I'm going to bed." "Mark." "Drop it, Ellie." He left the kitchen, his footsteps heavy on the stairs. I stood there, staring at the empty beer bottle, until my own phone chimed. A Reddit DM from a throwaway account. User 789. "You're right not to trust him. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., Starbucks on 5th. Come alone." I didn't sleep. By 9:45 a.m., I was parked outside the Starbucks on 5th, gripping my steering wheel, until my knuckles turned white. The throwaway account hadn't messaged again. What if it was a trap? What if it was Mark testing me? I walked in anyway. The cafe smelled like burnt espresso and cinnamon. A woman in scrubs sat at the corner table. Her eyes locked on me before I'd fully stepped inside. She was younger than I'd imagined, mid-20s, with a sharp jawline and a faded tattoo peeking out from under her sleeve. "Ellie," she said as I approached. "Who are you?" "Lena. I work night shifts at St. Mary's. Your husband's department." She pushed a manila envelope across the table. "Open it." Inside were photocopied invoices. Hospital funds allocated for patient housing, signed off by Mark. The dates matched the hotel receipts. Patient housing? I said, "Bullshit." Lena stirred her coffee aggressively. "We don't have a patient housing program, but the board's been auditing the budget, so he's covering his tracks. These invoices? Forged." My throat tightened. "Why tell me this?" "Because he's stealing." She leaned closer. 2 months ago, I caught him altering records. When I threatened to report him, he said he'd ruin my career. "I've got student loans, Ellie." I kept quiet, but then I saw your Reddit post. I stared at the invoices. The signatures looked like Mark's, but sloppier, rushed. "What's he using the money for?" "Don't know, but it's not an affair." She paused. "Check his phone. The password's your anniversary." "How do you?" He types it in every day, like he's punishing himself. I stood abruptly, the chair screeching behind me. "Why should I believe you?" She slid a badge across the table. "St. Mary's Hospital ID. Lena Rivera, RN. Believe what you want, but if the board finds out he's embezzling before you divorce him, you'll lose everything too." Rain slapped the windows as I drove home. Mark's car wasn't in the garage. His office door was slightly ajar. I typed our anniversary into his desk drawer lock. 1015. It clicked open. Inside was a burner phone. It rang as I held it. The phone vibrated in my hand. A number with a 212 area code flashing on the screen. New York. I didn't recognize it, but I answered. "Who is this?" A man's voice, low and gravelly. "Tell Mark he's 2 weeks late. We don't like being ghosted." "Late for what?" "Payment. And if he thinks hiding behind a hospital scam makes him untouchable, he's dumber than he looks." My pulse roared in my ears. "What do you want?" The line went dead. I stared at the phone. Only 3 contacts saved. Luxury Auto Detailing. C. 212-555-0192. The office. The text to C. Were all the same. Need another week. Don't call this number again. I'll get you the money. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. I shoved the burner back into the drawer and slammed it shut just as Mark walked in. "What are you doing in here?" His voice was ice. "Looking for stamps." He glanced at the drawer, then at me. "Get out." I brushed past him, my hands shaking. That night, I waited until his snores rattled the bedroom walls before creeping downstairs. The burner was gone, but the next morning, another DM from user 789. "Meet me again. Same place. He's in deeper than you think." I met Lena at Starbucks again. This time, she brought a file thicker than a textbook. "He's laundering money," she said, flipping it open. "Spreadsheets, wire transfers, offshore accounts, all under the hospital's name. St. Mary's thinks they're funding a clinic in Belize. It doesn't exist." I pointed to a transaction labeled Carson Holdings. $250,000. "Who's Carson?" "Not who. What?" She lowered her voice. "It's a shell company. The money gets funneled there, then vanishes. But your husband's just a middleman. Someone else is pulling the strings." "Who?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. She paled. "Shit, I have to go." "Lena, don't contact me again." She shoved the file at me and bolted. That night, I hid the documents under the floorboard in the guest room. Mark was working late again. At midnight, headlights flooded the driveway. Not his BMW, a black SUV. A man got out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a leather jacket. He walked to our front door and knocked. I didn't move. He knocked again. Harder. Mrs. Carter? We need to talk about your husband's debt. I called Mark. No answer. The man slid an envelope under the door. Inside was a photo of me leaving Starbucks with Lena. Scrawled on the back, "Tell Mark he has 48 hours, or we visit your sister next." My sister lived in Oregon. They knew her name. They knew where she lived. I texted the burner number from the envelope. "Leave her out of this." The reply was instant. 48 hours. I didn't wait for Mark. I booked a 6 a.m. flight to Portland and called my sister, Claire, from the airport. "Ellie, it's 4 in the goddamn. Pack a bag. Now. I'm picking you up in 3 hours." She hesitated. "Is this about Mark?" "Just do it." The plane landed in a downpour. Claire lived in a studio apartment above a vegan bakery, the smell of sourdough clinging to the stairs. She opened the door in sweatpants, her hair a nest of curls. "What's going on?" I shoved the photo at her. The one of me and Lena. The thread on the back. Her face drained. "Who are these people?" "I don't know, but they know where you live. You need to disappear for a while." "Disappear? Ellie, I have a job. A life." "They're threatening you because of Mark." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She sank onto the couch. "What did he do?" I told her everything. The receipts. The burner phone. The $250,000 funneled to Belize. When I finished, she stood, walked to her closet, and pulled out a duffel bag. "I'll stay with Jess in Seattle, but you need to fix this." I drove her to the train station. As she boarded, she turned. "Be careful. These people, they don't play games." Back home, Mark's car was in the driveway. He sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands. "Where were you?" he said, voice hollow. "Saving Claire." He looked up, eyes bloodshot. "They contacted you." "Who's they, Mark?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. His phone buzzed. A text lit up the screen. 24 hours. He stood abruptly. "I'll handle it." "Handle it how?" "By getting us killed." He grabbed his keys. "Stay out of this, Ellie." The door slammed. I pulled up the Carson Holdings files Lena gave me. Buried in the wire transfers was a name, Victor Russo. A Google search pulled up a mugshot. Armed robbery, assault, CEO of a Queens-based construction company, and a business address in New York. I booked another flight. Victor Russo's address wasn't a warehouse. It was a small, unmarked clinic on the outskirts of Queens. The building looked abandoned, but the lights were on. I texted Lena's burner. "Found the clinic. What now?" Her reply was instant. "Don't go inside. Wait for me." I didn't wait. The door was unlocked. Inside, the walls were lined with patient charts. Not for St. Mary's. Names I didn't recognize. A reception desk sat empty, a half-drunk coffee still steaming. "Hello." No answer. I flipped open a chart. Diagnosis: stage for glioblastoma. Treatment: experimental drug trial CX9. CX9. I'd heard Mark mention it once. A controversial medication St. Mary's rejected for ethical violations. Trials were shut down years ago. Footsteps echoed down the hall. A woman in a lab coat emerged, her face hidden behind a mask. "You shouldn't be here." "Who's running these trials?" "Leave. Now." I held up the chart. CX. 9 was banned. "This is illegal." She froze. "Your husband approved the funding. Ask him." "Mark's a surgeon. He doesn't fund trials." "Not officially." She nodded to a filing cabinet. "Look under Carson Holdings." Inside were invoices. Millions funneled from St. Mary's to this clinic. Signed by Mark. Why? I whispered. Ask him about patient 14. She shoved me toward the door. And don't come back. I drove to the only safe place left, my sister Claire's old college apartment, empty since she'd fled. There, I Googled patient 14 CX9 trial, a news article from 2012. Teen dies in unapproved drug trial. Family alleges cover-up. The photo showed a 15-year-old boy, Marcus Carter, Mark's brother. He'd never mentioned a brother. My phone rang. Mark's number. Ellie, where are you? Why did you lie about Marcus? Silence. Then quietly, CX9 killed him. My father paid the clinic to destroy the records. I tried to undo it, to fix what he started. The hotel funds, the embezzling. It was to bury the trial for good. You're still lying. The clinic's records are forged. Marcus didn't die from CX9. He's alive, Ellie. And Victor Russo is his doctor. The phone slipped from my hand. Marcus. Alive. Mark's voice buzzed faintly from the floor, repeating my name. I hung up. The article said Marcus died at 15. The photo showed a boy with Mark's eyes, his smile tentative, his hair too long. But if he was alive... I drove back to the clinic. The lights were off now, the door chained. I pried a window open with a tire iron and climbed into the dark. My phone flashlight swept over empty desks, stripped shelves. They cleared out, except for one chart left in a trash can. Patient 14. Name, Marcus Carter. Admission date, November 15th, 2012. Status, transferred March 18th, 2023. Transferred. To where? A car door slammed outside. I ducked behind the desk as footsteps approached. Victor Russo's voice barked. Check the back. She's here somewhere. I crawled toward the rear exit, clutching the chart. The alley was pitch black, the clinic's van idling nearby. I slid into the driver's seat, keys dangling in the ignition, and hit the gas. The van's GPS had one address saved. Fairview Oaks Psychiatric Facility, NJ. I drove all night. Fairview Oaks was a crumbling brick building surrounded by pines. The receptionist barely looked up. Visiting hours ended at 8. I'm here for Marcus Carter. Her smile faded. No one by that name here. Check again. She typed slowly. Mr. Carter was discharged last week. Family requested a transfer. Family? Mark Carter? No, Clara Carter. Clara, the name from the hotel receipts. The receptionist leaned closer, lowering her voice. If you're a reporter, you should leave. The man who picked him up, he wasn't family. She slid a visitor log across the counter. The signature was illegible, but the license plate was clear. LUX 5493. I called Mark. Who's Clara? He exhaled sharply. Where are you? Who is Clara? A pause. My father's nurse. She helped cover up the trial. After Marcus died, she took him. I didn't know until last year. That's why I needed the money to get him back. You're lying. Elle, listen. The van's window shattered. A gloved hand grabbed my hair, yanking me into the dark. The glove tightened around my throat. I clawed at the hand, choking, until a voice snarled, "Let her go." Victor Russo stood in the alley, flanked by two men. The hand released me. I crumpled to the ground, gasping. "You shouldn't have come back," Victor said. "But since you're here, meet Clara." A woman stepped into the dim light, late 50s, steel gray hair, wearing a nurse's uniform. "Clara, where's Marcus?" I croaked. "Safe," she said. "Safer than you." Victor tossed a folder at my feet. Photos of Marcus, alive but hollow-eyed, strapped to a hospital bed. He's been our patient since the trial. Your husband paid to keep him hidden, until he got greedy. Mark was trying to save him, I said. Clara laughed. Mark was trying to save himself. When the hospital started auditing funds, he panicked. Sold Marcus to us to cover his tracks. The van door creaked open. Marcus shuffled out, frail and ghostly, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Marcus, I reached for him. He flinched. You're too late. Sirens wailed in the distance. Victor's men scattered, but Clara stood firm. You'll never prove anything. I don't have to. I held up my phone, still recording. The police heard everything. Clara lunged, but Victor pulled her back. Run! They vanished into the night. Marcus and I sat in silence until the cops arrived. Mark was arrested at the airport, a one-way ticket to Belize in his pocket. The hospital settled a lawsuit with Marcus for $8 million. He lives in a quiet coastal town now, relearning how to smile. I filed for divorce. Last I heard, Mark pleaded guilty to embezzlement and fraud. Clara and Victor are still missing. As for me, I'm studying law. Turns out I'm good at uncovering secrets. Thanks for the advice, Reddit.